Missing out on family time because of all the noise? Enjoy the moment without straining to keep up with the conversation.
Wow, what a beautiful sunset.
Discover Nuance Audio, the new invisible hearing solution that's built into your glasses. Discreet, comfortable, and easy to use. Nuance Audio glasses help you hear better and reduce background noise, so you can get back to enjoying time with your loved ones. Find a store near you at nuanceaudio.com.
This is the Roger Stone Show, presented by Colonial Metals Group.
A man who's gone through hell, but he's kept going, and he's smart, and he's strong, and people love him. Not everybody, but people love him and respect him. Roger Stone.
Now, here's Roger Stone.
And we're back. Joining us now is Kerry Pickett. She is the senior congressional reporter for the Washington Times. She is one of the very best investigative reporters in the country, having written previously for the Daily Caller and the Washington Examiner. Kerry Pickett has broken a number of bombshell stories about misconduct and corruption in the FBI, but one story she wrote on October 29th really caught my eye. This was in the Washington Times. The headline, Whistleblower, James Comey had FBI honeypot spies infiltrate Donald Trump's 2016 campaign. This is an incredible article. This makes Watergate look like small potatoes. Tell us about this story, Kerry.
Thanks for having me, Roger. Yeah, I'm so glad that you definitely want to have me on today to talk about this, because this particular story, when we first put it up on our WashingtonTimes.com website, when people first saw it, we're talking about a situation here where former FBI Director James Comey, he set up a off the books investigation into Donald Trump's first campaign. We're talking about 2015, 2016, to go look into not just Donald Trump, but allies of Donald Trump, such as yourself, and his family, and anything into Donald Trump right after he came down the golden escalator. Now, this was 1 year before Crossfire Hurricane, okay? And what's interesting here, when I say off the books, all right, what I mean is usually when FBI investigations are launched, what happens is that FBI officials, FBI agents, they usually enter into the system some sort of case file, a case number. In this case, no case file, no case number, nothing in the system was ever entered. So what ended up happening was you had two undercover FBI agents, in this case 2 females, who were sent in to Donald Trump's campaign as honeypots to seduce somebody or some people, whomever, over in the Donald Trump campaign starting in 2015. And apparently, some people said, oh, well, that sounds very similar to Crossfire Hurricane. Wasn't it Crossfire Hurricane? Once again, it was not Crossfire Hurricane. It was a year before Crossfire Hurricane. And the thing here was that this lasted for maybe perhaps a year or so. We don't know exactly. We don't know the timeline. But what we do know is that this particular this investigation of James Comey, it wasn't predicated on anything, Roger. It wasn't predicated on Russia. It wasn't predicated on any national security threat, nothing. It was basically just go in and find something on him. We don't know what, just find something. And that in and of itself is completely and utterly illegal. It is completely wrong. And what ultimately it was shut down. Why? Because apparently a major newspaper ended up getting a photo of one of the undercovers. And so the FBI comms people ended up reaching out to that major newspaper and said, hey, we see that you have published a photo here online, and, that's a FBI informant, not an informant, one of the honeypots, one of the full-timers. you have to take that down. Otherwise, this informant of ours is going to get killed. A total lie. But still, this major newspaper was like, "Ooh, okay, we're going to take it down." But as a result, though, this undercover was still compromised, so they shut down this whole off-the-books investigation. Ultimately, though, because the whole thing was compromised, they shut it down, and one of the honeypots went to the CIA, was transferred, so then they could never, ever be asked about it. They'd never be brought over to Congress. And the other was promoted upwards away into a very high executive level position within the FBI. So now, it's interesting here, Roger, is that I reached out to the FBI for their comment. I reached out to James Comey. Usually when reporters ask, as you very well know, for organizations for any sort of comment, it's either we have no comment, your source is full of bull, you're full of bull, this whole story's full of bull, no comment whatsoever, literally radio silence, nothing, which is very fascinating, especially given this entire story right now.
The most shocking thing about this is these two evidently attractive female agents were actually traveling with candidate Trump and his campaign staff. And as you point out, this was, in your story, a fishing expedition. There was no evidence of a crime. Imagine my surprise when I woke up on the day of Donald Trump's inauguration to read a New York Times story above the fold on page 1 that said I was one of 3 Trump associates under FBI surveillance for my quote-unquote Russian contacts when I knew that I had no Russian contacts. Again, no predicate for this investigation. It is shocking, but is also, if you look at the greater body of work that you have done on the FBI, this is just one of a number of major stories. You also reported that the Justice Department actually kept FBI employees in the dark for years about whistleblower protections, I gather, to stop people from coming forward. In the case of this honeypot operation, this entire off-the-books operation, directed presumably by James Comey himself, was hidden from Michael Horowitz, who was the Inspector General who did an investigation into the Russian collusion associated abuses by the FBI.
Absolutely. And not only just Michael Horowitz, but presumably Donald Trump's counsel as well. So not only did Horowitz not know about it, but also Donald Trump's lawyers didn't know about it either. So all of this information was kept away. And as I mentioned again once before, I still haven't had James Comey, come forward because this story's been all over the place. And I'm sure it's popped up on his Google alerts. I mean, I also reached out to him as well. It's not like he's denying it. So there's real problems here right now. And as a former FBI Assistant Director Chris Swecker, he said of the report that if it's true, and like I said, no one's denying it, he called it a, quote, booming, egregious violation of the rules of the governing of the Attorney General and the FBI. So, we're talking about, real illegalities that could have gone on here. And the question here that could be going on here is who else was sort of involved other than the FBI? Okay? And that is a big question here because, you have to wonder, did he bring in just the undercover operation here? Because if this was totally off the books, if this was a totally rogue operation that James Comey did on his own with just a few others, then that's a big, big problem because it's my understanding, Roger, that they told, basically the people who were just involved, they told, okay, guys, do not ever talk about this to anyone and don't ever talk about this whole operation to each other. Otherwise, you're all in trouble. You're going to be facing some bad consequences because, it was almost like implying, yeah, we know this was wrong, but, don't ever talk about it again to each other or to anyone on the outside. So, that's something that could be very interesting going forward.
We're going to go to a quick commercial break here in just a moment. When we come back, we're going to continue with Kerry Pickett with the Washington Times. She has a number of bombshell stories, including a whistleblower who warns that the FBI cannot be trusted to do the background checks for President Trump's news nominees, and also a story regarding the FBI brass's stunned and shell-shocked reaction to Trump's re-election. So you're not going to want to miss all of that. We'll be right back on the Roger Stone Show here with Kerry Pickett, one of the very best investigative reporters in the country, currently with the Washington Times, previously with the Daily Caller and the Washington Examiner. You're not going to want to miss the other bombshells that she's covered. We're very glad to have her on the show today. It is this story really blows my mind. Kind of reminds me of when John Brennan went to the other English-speaking intelligence agencies and gave them a list of 26 associates of Donald Trump who should be surveilled and so-called bumped. My name was on that list as well. And then, of course, there was no predicate for that either. And now a word from our sponsor.
Now, it's time for Protecting Your Future, sponsored by Colonial Metals Group. Here's Roger Stone.
So, folks, the federal government has not abandoned their plan to move to some kind of digital currency. This is a system in which your paper money would be worthless. The government would give you a plastic credit card for all your purchases, which means they could turn off your money whenever they felt like it. The wild spending that's been going on in Washington, which threatens your retirement, it may slow down and ultimately stop, but that won't happen tomorrow. That's why thousands of Americans are now moving to protect their retirement, protect their nest egg, protect their IRAs and their 401ks, and they're doing it by acquiring precious metals like gold and silver. The Colonial Metals Group is the only group that I trust to do this. You can learn more by going to freegoldguide.com. That's freegoldguide.com. Gold has protected us through every single financial crisis in our history. Learn more by going to freegoldguide.com.
Get ready for Universal Epic Universe, featuring the wizarding world of Harry Potter, Ministry of Magic, and Super Nintendo World. Now open at Universal Orlando Resort. Tickets and packages on sale now at universalorlando.com.
Morning decisions. A creamy mocha frappuccino drink? A sweet vanilla? Maybe a smooth caramel? Or that white chocolate mocha? Whichever you choose, delicious coffee awaits. Start your day with bottled Starbucks Frappuccino drinks. Pick up a bottle near you wherever you buy your groceries.
Running a business comes with a lot of what-ifs. But luckily, there's a simple answer to them. Shopify. It's the commerce platform behind millions of businesses, including Thrive Cosmetics and Momofuku. And it'll help you with everything you need. From website design and marketing to boosting sales and expanding operations, Shopify can get the job done and make your dream a reality. Turn those what-ifs into... Sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/special offer.
What makes a great pair of glasses? At Warby Parker, it's all the invisible extras without the extra cost. Their designer quality frames start at $95, including prescription lenses, plus scratch-resistant, smudge-resistant, and anti-reflective coatings, and UV protection, and free adjustments for life. To find your next pair of glasses, sunglasses, or contact lenses, or to find the Warby Parker store nearest you, head over to warbyparker.com. That's warbyparker.com.
Richard Nixon, Ronald Reagan, George W. Bush, and Donald Trump.
They went after a guy named Roger Stone, who's sitting in the office. And I'll say this in front of Roger, he's no baby. And right now, he's cleaner than anybody in this place. No, they treated him very unfairly.
All of these presidents relied on one man to secure their seat in the Oval Office. That man is Roger Stone.
Roger Stone.
This is the Roger Stone Show, presented by Colonial Metals Group. Now, here's Roger Stone.
And we're back. We're talking to Kerry Pickett, who is the senior congressional reporter for the Washington Times. Kerry, you had a story on November 12th telling us that the U.S. Justice Department kept FBI employees in the dark for as long as 7 years about whistleblower protections. Tell us about this story.
Okay, So for many, many, many years, we were talking about, going all the way back to days of Hoover. Look, there's never really been any real whistleblower protections for FBI agents, period. So finally, by 2016, you have Charles Grassley, Republican of Iowa, who's been a champion of FBI whistleblowers. He and a few others finally cobbled up some great whistleblower protections for FBI agents. And one of them was the fact that FBI agents can now contact, their direct supervisors and saying, hey, I have a whistleblower complaint, saying that there is abuse, malfeasance, maybe witness or evidence tampering or whatever the case may be of what's going on in the FBI. Because for many, many years, the current or the previous ways were just that, we have our own whistleblower system within the FBI, and you can go through it, and don't worry, nothing's going to happen. But basically, any time a whistleblower would actually complain about the FBI would just retaliate against them, and it was a horrible system. But in 2016, when this new law passed, they said, no, you can go directly to your supervisor, or you can go to the IG, or you can go directly to Congress. See, this great new legislation just passed in 2016. However, the Justice Department never updated their regulations. So they basically never told anybody at the FBI, hey, guess what? You can go to Congress and give us your whistleblower complaints. Guess what? You can go to the IG and give us your whistleblower complaints, or go directly to your supervisor. They kept it essentially a big secret to FBI personnel, the most important people that they should tell. So this was for 8 years, 7, 8 years. It was essentially a big secret. So, these FBI personnel were just going through the old system. It wasn't until, the last 2-3 years that all of a sudden they just ended up discovering it. Oh, wait, this legislation passed in 2016 and we can go directly to Congress. Yeah, you can go to Congress. You can go to the IG. And that was when all of a sudden, when people are going, why is it that these FBI agents, why is it that they're not whistleblowing? Well, they just discovered this secret text from 2016 that they can go to Congress and all these other places. And that's why the DOJ IG was just they were keeping it from these poor agents who were suffering this entire time. Incredible.
You also have a bombshell story in which you raise the question about whether, you have a source at the FBI here, about whether the FBI can be trusted to conduct the background checks for President Trump's nominees. Now, this is of particular interest to me because I am outraged by the claims in Son of the Congress that Tulsi Gabbard, who has served her country in combat in both Iraq and Kuwait, who's a lieutenant colonel in the U.S. Army Reserve, who is a 4-term member of Congress serving on the Armed Services and the Foreign Affairs Committee, is not a patriotic or loyal American simply because she doesn't want to ship billions of dollars more to fund the war in Ukraine. This is an outrageous claim. But I see that Nikki Haley and even Senator James Lankford, a Republican of Oklahoma, as well as others, are saying, well, the FBI needs to vet all of these nominees. I don't know that they can be trusted to do that. Tell us about this incredible story.
All right. Very often, even people who are saying, well, the FBI can't be trusted, they'll point to a lot of the things that, people say, like the raid on Mar-a-Lago, Crossfire Hurricane, et cetera. And those are totally, good places to start. But specifically, the people who do the ultimate vetting of the FBI background checks that are done of the nominees are what's known as the security division of the FBI. Okay. And the security, and that's known as SecD in FBI lingo. SecD ultimately gets all the FBI background checks that are done of these nominees. And I'd like to remind everybody, very often you hear about these FBI whistleblowers, okay, that we've already talked about. And over like the past 2 years, we've all heard about these FBI whistleblowers who have come forward, who have said, "Oh, I had my security clearance yanked because I was a conservative, because I was a Trump supporter, because I wouldn't take the COVID jab." And this has been going on for like the last few years now, that like all these FBI whistleblowers were coming forward saying, "Oh, I went to the January 6th rally just to check it out. And then all of a sudden, like the FBI found out and I had my security clearance yanked." And we found out that the security division within the FBI were basically a bunch of anti-Trump, anti-conservative type of people. I mean, they even circulated like a Trump questionnaire asking FBI colleagues of people who are being investigated for their security clearances, saying, "Hey, does this person over here hate Trump? If they do, we want to know, because we're thinking of like yanking their security clearance. Why is this important?" Well, because this same security division, they're the ones who are going to be vetting ultimately all of these White House political nominees. Okay. And, a lot of people don't put two and two together. They're like, wait, hold on a second. Like, these are the people who are going to be like looking at all the background checks that are going to be coming in. Yeah. And not only that, you're going to have people on the 7th floor who are going to have access to all that information that has been brought in to the security division. People like Christopher Wray, people like Paul Abate, who is the deputy director of the FBI. He's the guy who told all the heads of the FBI field offices, "Hey, you better make sure that all these January 6th investigations are done." So, and on top of that, who also has access to all of these FBI background checks? The White House, the current White House. So therein lies the problem.
All right. Kerry Pickett, the senior congressional reporter for the Washington Times. Kerry, tell people where they can follow you on social media.
Get me at Kerry Pickett, KerryPickett. That's over on X. And get me at the Washington Times, WashingtonTimes.com.
Thank you very much, and God bless you.